Hi, everyone. Welcome to This One's Dedicated To. I'm Jennifer Ziegler.
And I'm Chris Barton, and we are joined today by our friend Olugbemisola Rhuday-Perkovich, the author of the middle grade novel Operation Sisterhood. Welcome, Olugbemisola.
Thank you. Thank you so much to you both for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
We're so glad you're here. So, to kick us off, could you please read aloud the dedication in Operation Sisterhood?
I sure can. It is to the kids of New York City, all of your stories matter.
Hmm. Can you talk a bit about how you landed on this for the dedication?
Sure. So I was writing the bulk of it during the heart of the pandemic. And here in New York City, it was really, really rough. And I was trying to write this really happy, sort of joyful story that I had been waiting a long, long time to write because it was a book that was really inspired by some of my favorite books when I was a kid, by Elizabeth Enright and by Noel Streatfeld about like these sort of kind of wacky, happy, joyful families. So I was excited to finally write my story of this Black family in New York City and like have them be happy and joyful. And then it was just not a joyful time in the city. It was really, really sad. And I was struggling with writing the book. And what kept me going was thinking about one, what I wanted to give readers, which is something I do think about with every book, but with that one in particular, I had to really focus on that and think about like, oh, I want kids in the city to know that there's going to be a time beyond this,
Mhm.
that there is going to be joy in the city again. There is going to be fun in the city again. And also just thinking about all the kids that I've met, I thought very much about the kids that I met when I was writing my first book, Eighth Grade Super Zero, who were sort of like, we want people to write about like kids, regular kids like us, and like nerdy kids like us. And everyone thinks New York kids are rude and like has all these stereotypes of what New York City kids are. And we just want stories about regular kids. And so thinking about those two things got the book written because I was struggling.
Were there particular kids that you had in mind? Like, can you tell us about any of them?
Sure. I thought a lot about one group of kids where I was a youth group leader for like a group of middle schoolers. And these were like really curious, inquisitive kids. And it was very funny because it was a youth group in a church, but none of the kids who came to this youth group were part of the church or affiliated with the church. They were just like kids who had seen, I had put up flyers around the neighborhood, and they were kids who had seen the flyers and just kind of wandered in. And at first I got in trouble with like the bishop and like church people because I was holding these youth group meetings during the service. And I was like, they're not going to the service anyway. Like they don't even go to this church. So I kind of think you should be glad
Mhm.
that people are feeling welcome enough to like, come onto the grounds and, chat and talk. And they were just such a fun, interesting group of kids who wanted to talk about like really deep, serious things on some days and like just be really silly, like the way real kids and adults are. And so I had them in mind, and I had these girls that I used to work with. I used to run a program for adolescent girls called The Curious Adventures of Tarabelle Bradley. And it was a totally made up program. I don't know how I got paid to do this for 2 years, but like I made up this whole career exploration program and I wrote scripts for the girls, and we would have these meetings and just talk about different careers. And then they would just tell me what to me seemed wild stories about their lives. And I would just be like, oh my goodness. They would be like, Miss, you have no idea. And I was like, I really don't, because so I thought a lot about those girls. And then finally I thought about me, my sister, and another pair of sisters, my best friend and her little sister, and the adventures that we used to have and some of the silly things that we used to do together, including planning to be a band. And we just never got past the planning stage. So we would just like sit in one of our rooms and just like argue about our logo and argue about who was going to be the lead singer and who was going to be. So we did that for a few years actually, and never actually even practiced. We had our instruments with us. So we would just sit there and argue. So I thought about all of those.
You were focused on the important things of the band.
Exactly. The logo was really important.
Did you have a name?
Our band name, yes, our band name was Gloss. And so I do use that band name in the book for like the rival band.
For the dedication for Operation Sisterhood, have you heard back anything from your fellow New Yorkers who have seen that dedication?
Yeah, so I was recently doing a writer in residence program at the Bank Street School with some fourth graders. And in the writing workshops, the kids who had even read the book before I started the residency talked about not having thought before that like the things they did every day could be a book, that they could just sort of write about their own lives or the ideas that they had themselves, that they thought they had to do something sort of big and spectacular and outside of themselves. And it helped them to think about the fact that their own stories mattered. So that made me happy. I'm always talking to them about how their stories do matter. And so when I'm sharing that, I really want them to know that I have a respect for them and that I want to honor their stories and I want to honor their lives in my writing, and that I hope that they can see something of themselves and in their lives in the writing.
Their next question. Oh yeah, it's my question. This is we'll do a smooth edit. It'll be kind of a fade.